Hey everybody, a quick shout out to everybody watching this back on replay. I want to remind you that while you're watching, you can double tap your screen to share hearts. You can swipe up on Android or swipe right on iOS, and you can share this broadcast via Twitter. And if you're watching this back on Facebook or on YouTube, be sure to comment. And if you like what you see, be sure to like, share, and subscribe as well. For everybody joining us here live on Periscope, I want to offer a big welcome. If you're not familiar with who I am, I'm Coach Nino Villa. I'm a disciple of Christ. I'm a husband, father, and I'm a financial coach. Excuse me. And I'm here in the greater Phoenix area, where it's about 4:50 in the p.m. and it's still 102 degrees outside. Now, if you're new to my broadcast, will you take a second and just type in new in the comments? That way I can give you a special shout out. And while you're doing that, I'll let you know, I like to get on Periscope and share about faith, family, and finances. Am I debt free? I'm well on my way. Welcome from North Carolina, Sal. Thanks for joining. Vegas G. Becker, Vegas 4021. Working my way to becoming debt free. My wife and I, we started our Total Money Makeover in February of 2013, and in that time we've paid off more than $40,000 worth of debt. And so just a little over 2 years, we've been able to pay off that mountain. And we still have a mountain to climb. And thank you, Manny. Welcome, Manny, and thanks for sharing on Twitter. And so, yeah, I like to get on to Periscope and share about faith, family, and finances. And tonight I want to talk about a top tip to help you make your Total Money Makeover a success. I want to talk about how to determine how much your food budget should be. So I coach a lot of couples, and this is always like the number one, like how much should I be spending at the grocery store? So go ahead and real quick, swipe up if you're on Android, swipe right if you're on iOS, and share this with your followers. Let's bring some more people into the conversation and share it via Twitter as well. Share this broadcast via Twitter. And if you're not following me already, go ahead and click that little icon and let me know, or I'm sorry, follow me so then I know when you're on, because I'll follow you back. Yeah, no Starbucks, right? So food category. Let's talk about that dreaded food category. Thank you for the share on Twitter. I really do appreciate that, Sal. Thanks. So let's talk about how to determine how much should be in your food budget. Now, I'm going to take you through a couple of things that you should be thinking about in order to inform this decision, right? Because there is no one size fits all. Rice and beans, beans and rice, as Dave Ramsey would say. So I think it's really important that first, you got to be on the same page with your spouse. So you got to sit down and you got to figure out, what are you willing to sacrifice in the food budget? Are you willing to be on rice and beans and rice only? Or do you still want to be able to have a couple of treats in there, or whatever the case may be? What of our family of 7? So this is an important question in our household. And Sal, I'm so glad you're here tonight then, because this is one that keeps coming up. I'm currently coordinating a financial Peace University in my small group, and this was the question. This was like the $1 million question. How much should we be spending on our food budget? And I'll tell you this, before you even come to a number, you got to get rid of the guilt. You got to get rid of the guilt associated with that number. If that number is going to be a large number, then that's fine. It's your family. You need to feed them. You just got to make sure that you're being reasonable when you go to the store. So here's a couple of things to keep in mind. One of the first ways you can start to determine how much your food budget should be is if you're using a debit or credit card right now to pay for your groceries, look back. Look back about 3 months and get an average. What are you spending? 1, how often do you go to the store? 2, how much are you spending when you go to the store? And start to get an idea of how much are you spending every pay period. So if you get paid every week, do you go every week, and are you spending every week? If you get paid every 2 weeks, are you going every 2 weeks? Or what are you spending in a month? But get an idea of what you've been spending over the last 3 months. Regardless of how often you go, get an idea. Do I spend $100 every time I go? Do I spend $200 every time I go? And then how often am I going? For my family and I, we go every single week. We get paid every 2 weeks. So we take out the money every 2 weeks, and then we spend 1 week's worth at a time, and then we go the next week. So for us, we had to look back and we had to ask ourselves, if we're going every single week, how much were we spending? We were spending about $125 for, at that time, a family of 3. It was my wife, myself, and our young one. So we looked back, we said, okay, $125 every single week, and that was pretty average for the last 3 months. Well, that came out to be about, what, $250, about $500 a month. Right? So that kind of gave us a starting point. So I want you to look back 3 months. I want you to get an average. What is the average you're spending on your groceries, and how often are you going? Now, an important tip. Some of us, like myself, separate out food grocery shopping from toiletries grocery shopping. Right? I might go to Walmart and pick up both, but those are 2 separate categories in my book. I want to know what you're spending on food, right? Because toiletries, it's going to be a smaller amount usually. I mean, yes, you have to pick up your cleaning supplies and your detergent and your shampoo and your conditioner, but it's less frequent. I want to know, what are you spending on food and how often are you doing that? Take a look back. That's the first step to really understanding what that number should be. Now, a rule of thumb, if you kind of want some boundaries and you're like, hey coach, just tell me, like, give me some boundaries. What can it, like, it can't exceed. Well, Dave Ramsey would give you percentages, right? That your food budget should be somewhere between 5 and 10% of your income. The only problem is if somebody has a $100,000 income and another person has a $10,000 income, those are 2 significantly different numbers. And the person on $10,000 might be starving based off of that percentage, and the person making $100,000 doesn't need to even spend that much money on food. And so percentages don't always work in this particular category, so you might want a dollar amount. And for us, we have a family of 4. There's me, my wife, our 5-year-old daughter, and our 16-month-old son. On that, we spend $400 a month. $100 per person. But again, that's food only. We have a separate fund for baby supplies like diapers and wipes. We have a separate fund for things like cleaning supplies and whatnot. So it came out to be about $100 per person. Now that might be a little bit much for somebody like Sal, who has a family of 7. Right? They have a family of 7. And so $700 a month might be more than what you need to spend, but it might be a good starting point. So look back 3 months, take an average of what you've been spending each month, and then take a look at would $100 per person kind of be reasonable. Maybe you're already spending $700 a month, and so now you can feel confident and get rid of the guilt, right? Do not feel guilty about the number. If your number is $700 a month, it's $700 a month. This is your family we're talking about, and you need to feed them. Dave talks about taking care of the 4 walls, and that being your food, your transportation, your housing, and basic clothing. This is your family. You need to feed your family. Don't feel guilty about spending $700. But then you do have to ask yourself, are you being reasonable? Are you shopping reasonably? Are you, if you have a large family of 7, are you couponing if you need to coupon? Are you making sure that you're buying generic instead of name brand where it makes sense? So you just got to ask yourself, am I being reasonable? But get rid of the guilt. Once you set it down on paper, and if $700 a month for food is the number, then don't feel guilty about it anymore. Take out the money, put it in an envelope, and then go shopping with it. Okay, so those are 2 ways that you can start to identify how much money should I be spending in the food category. I want you to take a look back the last 3 months and see what your average was. That's way number 1. And way number 2 is you might just go with a hard and fast number for the number of people you have in the household. Again, we have 4, and it just so happens to work out that we spend $400 a month, $200 each pay period, get paid bi-weekly, that we spend in the food category. So I want to thank everybody for the hearts along the way, and thank you for the engagement. So what questions might you guys have about coming up with the number for the food budget, or more specifically, how much money are you currently spending in the food category, and do you think it's Too much? You think it's not enough? Thank you for all the hearts. Appreciate that. And for anybody who's new to Periscope, if you double tap the screen, you can share hearts, and then you'll see your color come up, and it'll be a nice rainbow of hearts. But what are you guys spending each month in your food category, and do you feel like it's too high? Do you feel like it's too low? What can I do to help you get rid of that guilt? I want to thank Manny for being here, and let's see, Controvis. I didn't say that right. Hi, Sarah. Welcome. Sarah is a happy girl melting in Arizona right now because it is hot. It's 102 degrees outside. All right. So it looks like we might... Hi there, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. You're joining us a little bit late tonight. I'm just talking about Dave Ramsey, the Total Money Makeover, and specifically how to determine what your food budget should be in your Total Money Makeover. So I'm not sure if you're a Dave Ramsey follower and if you're working the Total Money Makeover plan, if you're on a budget. But if so, awesome. And thanks for being with us. Looks like we might have a number of people also viewing in from the internet, so unfortunately they can't necessarily engage with us and ask questions and double tap the screen for hearts, but I wanted to share those tips. And so Sarah, for your benefit real quick, if you are, well, are you on the Dave Ramsey plan? You know who Dave Ramsey is, and are you working the Total Money Makeover? If so, just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat. I'm familiar with them. Not using the plan though. Okay, cool. Well, if you're ever curious on how to work a budget Dave Ramsey style, I am on YouTube, and you can actually see my real life budget right there on YouTube. And so we were just talking about how to determine how much somebody should be spending in the food category. It's a really hard category for a lot of people to kind of determine how much money should I really be spending at the grocery store. And so I gave two very practical ways to determine that. And one is take a look back 3 months. A lot of people are using debit or credit cards to pay for their groceries. So look back for the last 3 months and get an average. What are you spending every single month? You know, how often do you go, and how much are you spending each time you go? Just to get a sense and an idea of how much you're already spending. And then that might become the number. If you spent $500 average over the last 3 months, well, that could become the number, $500 a month in your grocery fund. Another way you can determine it is based off a household. And so with all of the couples that I've coached, if I have a household of 5, it usually ends up being $500. If the household is 4, it's usually $400. It just usually works out that it's about $100 per person in the household. So our household is 4. It's me, my wife, our daughter, and our son, and we budget $400 a month for food. The couples I coach, I have one couple where it's just them and one child, and their food budget's running, actually their food budget's running about $400, so it's actually a little higher than average. But my typical couple with kids, 5-person household, is about $500. And so those are 2 ways you can start determining how much you should be spending on your food budget. And then I want you to get rid of the guilt afterwards. Do not feel guilty about how much you're spending on your food category. I see that too often with the couples that I coach. They feel like they spend too much at the grocery store. Get rid of the guilt. Write it in, put it down on the budget, then go get the cash, put it in an envelope, and go to the grocery store. And stop feeling guilty about it. Hey guys, I want to thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Again, I will ask one last time to swipe up if you're on Android, swipe right if you're on iOS. Share this broadcast with your followers and via Twitter. You guys can catch me everywhere at Coach Nino Villa. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope. The handle is @Coach Nino Villa. If you need a real life example of a budget with real numbers, check out my YouTube content for that. In fact, come back tomorrow and I'll give you a little behind the scenes video of me recording my monthly budget on YouTube. So check me out here on Periscope for that. All right, guys. Thanks again for hanging out with me. And until next time, until I see you guys next time, keep living God's way for God's glory.